The first philosophers gave a place to dialectic in their teachings, in the proofs of their own statements, but did not know how to formalize it to the technique of an art. After them, Aristotle, like the careful student and commentator on all disciplines that he was, systematized the methods of this field that previously had not been subject to definite precepts. By writing outstanding works, he brought great praise to the school of Greece, and Roman writers, refusing to let him remain a foreigner, have conveyed him to Roman eloquence by translation and commentary. Varro, in his 9 books of Disciplines, defined dialectic and rhetoric by the following simile. Dialectic and rhetoric are like the clenched fist and the open palm in a man's hand. The former encloses the proofs of argumentation briefly. The latter, in full flow of words, traverses through the fields of eloquence. The former narrows its words, the latter expands them. Dialectic is indeed a keener instrument for discussing issues, rhetoric more eloquent in purposeful teaching. The former often visits in the schools. The latter always goes out to the law courts and assemblies. The former has need of a few devotees. The latter often seeks crowds of people. But before we speak of syllogisms, which display all the usefulness and excellence of dialectic, we must discuss briefly its starting points. The basics, so to speak, that the direction of our discussion will take the same course as that followed by our predecessors. Now, it is the custom of teachers of philosophy, before they begin to comment on the Isagoge, to touch briefly on the branches of philosophy. We will also maintain these divisions and believe that they should be mentioned at this point. Philosophy is divided into theoretical and into practical. The theoretical divides into natural, divine, and mathematical, and that one divides into arithmetic, music, geometry, and astronomy. Practical philosophy is divided into ethical, economic, and political. Philosophy is demonstrable, insofar as it is humanly possible, knowledge of divine and human matters. Alternatively, philosophy is the art of arts, the discipline of disciplines. Or again, philosophy is a preparation for dying, which is better fitted to Christians who trample down the lusts of this world and live a life of principle in a likeness of the homeland to come. As the apostle says, "For though we walk in the flesh, we do not make war according to the flesh." And elsewhere, "Our city is in heaven." Theoretical philosophy is that by which we go beyond the visible world to contemplate something of the divine and heavenly, and which we see only with the mind, since we have gone beyond corporeal sight. Natural philosophy is the investigation of the nature of each thing. Without the cooperation of nature against the wishes of nature, nothing comes into being. But each thing is destined to those uses for which the Creator limited, unless perhaps by God's will some miracle is shown to occur. The science that deals with quantity in the abstract is called mathematical. An abstract quantity is that which we deal with by calculation alone, by mentally separating these quantities from matter or other accidents, for instance, equals, unequals, and other sort of things. Philosophy is called divine when we discuss the ineffable nature of God or spiritual creations, partaking in some degree of a most profound distinguishing quality. Arithmetic is the study of quantity that can be counted in itself. Music is the study that discusses numbers that have a relationship to those things that are found in sounds. Geometry is the study of stationary magnitudes and shapes. Astronomy is the study of the movements of the stars in heaven. It considers and investigates by reason all configurations and movement of the stars in relation to one another and to the earth. Practical philosophy attempts to explain matters under consideration on the basis of their effects. Ethical philosophy is that through which a proper way of living is sought and principles aiming at virtue are prepared. Economic philosophy is the theory of the wisely ordered disposition of private affairs. Political philosophy is the theory for the effective governance of the entire state. Now that we have dealt with the divisions in which everything is included in general terms and definitions of philosophy, let us turn to Porphyry's book entitled The Isagoge. The Isagoge of Porphyry deals with 5 predictables: genus, species, differentiating characteristic, property, and accident. Genus relates to species in that it predicates of the things different in species which are in it. What each is, for example, an animal. For the genus animal is predicated of and signified by individual species, i.e., of man, ox, horse. Species is what is predicated in respect of essence of several things differing in number. Man is predicated of Socrates, Plato, and Cicero. A differentiating characteristic is predicated in respect of quality of several objects differing in species, as for example, rational and mortal are predicated as qualities of man. A property is that in respect of which each species or person is marked by definite addition, and in respect of which it is separated from every class, as laughter in a man and neighing in a horse. Accident is what is added or subtracted without change in the subject, or those things so added that are not subtracted at all. Anyone who wants to know more of these matters should read the introductory work of Porhyry. Although he states that he is writing to make another's work useful, he nevertheless gained praise for himself for having fashioned such statements. The categories or predicates of Aristotle follow, in which all discourse is wondrously contained in various meanings. Its instruments, or terms, are 3 in number. The terms, or instruments of categories or predications are 3: equivocal, univocal, denominative. Equivocal are defined as those that only have a common name, but in the name have a different kind of substance. For example, both an actual man and a man in a painting are animal. Univocal are defined as those that have a common name and do not differ in the name, but have the same principle of substance, e.g., both a man and an ox are animals. Denominative, i.e. derivative, is whatever gets an appellation in a name. It differs from that name only in suffixes. For example, grammarian from grammar, and brave from bravery. The categories or predications of Aristotle are 10 in number: substance, quantity, relation, quality, action, emotion or passion, place, time, position, and state. Substance is that which is noted properly and primarily and particularly, which is neither predicated of a subject nor present in a subject, as some particular man or some particular horse. Second substances are defined as those species in which what are called first substances are present and included, as Cicero is in the species of man. Quantity is of 2 sorts. 1, it is discrete and has separate parts that do not share some common end, for example, numbered and uttered speech. 2, it is continuous and has parts that are joined to one another for some common end, such as line, surface, body, place, time. Relation defines one thing in relation to another, like greater, double, condition, placement, knowledge, sense, location. Quality is that by which we are said to be of some sort, as good, bad. Action is, e.g., cutting or burning, i.e., doing something. Emotion or passion is, e.g., being cut or being burned. Place is, e.g., one stands, sits, lies. Time is yesterday or tomorrow. Position is, as in Asia, in Europe, in Libya. State is, e.g., to have shoes on or to have armor on. We must read this work of Aristotle carefully since, as it has been said, whatever men speak of is inevitably found among these 10 predications. It is also useful for understanding books that deal either with rhetoric or dialectic. The next book to be considered is the Perihermenias. It is a very subtle and careful study filled with different forms and repetitions. They say of it that Aristotle, when he was composing the Perihermenias, dipped his pen in his mind. In the Perihermenias, i.e., on interpretation, the philosopher dealt with the following: noun, verb, sentence, declaration, affirmation, denial, contradiction. A noun is a sound that derives significance from convention, without time reference, whose parts have no significance separately, e.g., Socrates. A verb is that which marks the time, of which a part signifies nothing more, and is always the mark of those things that are said of another, e.g., he thinks, she argues. A sentence is a significant portion of speech whose parts are separately significant, e.g., Socrates argues. An assertion is a significant portion of speech, something that is or is not, as Socrates exists, or Socrates does not exist. An affirmation is an assertion of something about something, as Socrates exists. A denial is a negative assertion of something about something, as Socrates does not exist. A contradiction is the opposing of affirmation and denial, as Socrates argues, Socrates does not argue. All these matters are treated in great detail by division and subdivision in the book. It should suffice to mention briefly those things, the definitions of these matters, since the book itself presents a suitable explanation. Furthermore, a commentary on it in 6 books by the patrician Boetius has been left to you among the other books. Now, we come to the types and figures of syllogisms in which the intellect of noble philosophers is continuously trained. The figures of the categorical, i.e., predicative syllogisms are 3. In the first figure there are 9 moods. In the second figure, 4 moods. In the third figure, 6. The 9 moods of the first figure are 1. That conclusion which infers a universal affirmative from a universal affirmative directly, as everything just is honorable, everything honorable is good, therefore everything just is good. 2. That which concludes a negative universal from an affirmative and a negative universal. Everything just is honorable, nothing honorable is base, therefore nothing just is base. 3. That which concludes a particular affirmation from a particular and a universal affirmation. Something just is honorable. Everything honorable is useful. Therefore, something just is useful. 4. That which concludes a particular negation from a particular affirmation and a universal negation, as something just is honorable. Nothing honorable is base. Therefore, something just is not base. 5. That which concludes from universal affirmations a particular affirmation by conversion. Everything just is honorable. Everything honorable is good. Therefore, something good is just. 6. That which concludes from a universal affirmation and a universal negation by conversion. Everything just is honorable. Nothing honorable is base. Therefore, nothing base is just. 7. That which concludes from a universal affirmation, a particular affirmation by conversion. Something just is honorable. Everything honorable is useful. Therefore, something useful is just. 8. That which concludes from a negative and affirmative universal, a particular negation by conversion. Nothing base is honorable. Everything honorable is just. Therefore, something just is not base. 9. That which concludes from a universal negation, a particular negation by conversion. Nothing base is honorable. Something honorable is just. Therefore, something just is not base. The 4 moods of the second figure are 1. That which concludes a universal negation directly from a universal affirmation and a universal negation. Everything just is honorable. Nothing base is honorable. Therefore, nothing base is just. 2. That which concludes a universal negation directly from a universal negation and a universal affirmation. Nothing base is honorable. Everything just is honorable. Therefore, nothing base is just. 3. That which concludes a particular negation directly from a particular affirmation and a universal negation. Something just is honorable. Nothing base is honorable. Therefore, something just is not base. 4. That which concludes a particular negation directly from a particular negation and a universal affirmation. Something just is not base. Everything evil is base. Therefore, something just is not evil. The 6 moods of the third figure are 1. that which concludes from universal affirmations a particular affirmation both directly and by conversion. Everything just is honorable. Everything just is good. Therefore, something honorable is good, and something good is honorable. 2. That which concludes from a particular and a universal affirmation a particular affirmation directly. Something just is honorable. Everything just is good. Therefore, something honorable is good. 3. That which concludes a particular affirmation directly from a universal and a particular affirmation. Everything just is honorable. Something just is good. Therefore, something honorable is good. 4. That which concludes a particular negation directly from a universal affirmation and a universal negation. Everything just is honorable. Nothing just is evil. Therefore, something honorable is not evil. 5. That which concludes a particular negation directly from a particular affirmation and a universal negation. Something just is honorable. Therefore, something honorable is not evil. 5. That which concludes a particular negation directly from a particular affirmation and a universal negation. Something just is honorable. Nothing just is evil. Therefore, something honorable is not evil. 6. That which concludes a particular negation directly from a universal affirmation and a particular negation. Everything just is honorable. Something just is not evil. Therefore, something honorable is not evil. Whoever wants to know fully these figures of the categorical syllogism should read the book of Apuleius entitled Perihermenias, where he will discover a more subtle treatment. Let's not be overcome with boredom because of the repetition of words, for once we distinguish and mediate on them with the Lord's aid, they bring us on the broad path of understanding. Now, in running order, let us take up the hypothetical syllogisms. There are 7 moods of the hypothetical syllogism that come about as the result of some set of contingencies. 1. If it is day, it is light. It is day, therefore it is light. 2. If it is day, it is light. It is not light, therefore it is not day. 3. It is not both day and without light. It is day, therefore it is light. 4. It is either day or night. It is day, therefore it is not night. 5. It is either day or night. It is not night, therefore it is day. 6. It is not both day and night. It is day, therefore it is not night. 7. It is not both day and night. It is not night, therefore it is day. If anyone wishes to know more about the moods of the hypothetical syllogism, he should read the book of Marius Victorinus called On the Hypothetical Syllogism. You should also know that Tullius Marcellus of Carthage dealt with categorical and hypothetical syllogisms, a matter discussed broadly by various philosophers, carefully and subtly in 7 books. In the first book he discussed the rule, as he himself says, of the dialectical art of syllogisms. He explained briefly in the second and third books what Aristotle published on the categorical syllogism in many books. In his fourth and fifth books, he brings together what the Stoics had discussed in numerous volumes on the hypothetical syllogisms. In the sixth book, he discussed mixed syllogisms. In the seventh, composite syllogisms. I have left this book for you to read. Let's proceed from this to the most pleasant types of definitions that are so prominent that they can be called the obvious manifestations of statements and some distinguishing marks of speech. The definition of definition is a brief statement including in its own signification the nature of each thing separated from the general class. This is accomplished in many ways and by many rules. The divisions of definitions are ousiodis, i.e. essential, eneumatike, notional, poedis, i.e. qualitative, hypographike, descriptional, kata antilexin, substitutional, kata diaphoran, differential, kata metaphoran, i.e. by metaphor, kata aferesin tu enantiu, by negation of the contrary, kata typosin, i.e. by a particular image, os typos, i.e. likeness, kata elipes olokleru homogenus, i.e. by lack of fullness of the same genus, kata epenon, i.e. by praise, kata analogian, proportional, kata toprosti, relational, kata etiologian, causational. Definitions. The Greek ousiodis, Latin essential, that is truly and properly definition as man is a mortal rational animal capable of understanding and learning. This definition, passing down through species and differentia, arrives at what is essential and delineates most fully what man is. 2. Greek enomatike, inferential, that is, in Latin, what we call notional, using a common, not a proper term. This is always fashioned in the following way. Man is a creature that is superior to other animals in the grasp and exercise of reason. It does not tell what a man is, but what he does, as if a sign had been invoked to lead to knowledge. In this definition, and in the rest, the notion of the thing presented is not an essential one, as is stated in the first definition, because the first kind of definition is essential. It holds first place among all definitions. 3. The Greek poiotis, Latin qualitative. This definition, by telling what the quality is, clearly shows what the thing is, e.g., a man is one who has a strong mind, an ability in arts, and by knowledge of matter chooses what he ought to do, or by censure rejects what is not beneficial. A man is described and defined by these qualities. 4. Hypographike, descriptional. This type, by the addition of circumlocutions concerning words and deeds, declares what a thing is by description. If you want to define luxurious, we say, luxurious means seeking an unessential, expensive, and burdensome way of life, overabundant in delights, inclined to lust. This type of definition is more suited to orators than dialecticians because of its breadth. This likeness is set down in matters good and evil. 5. Kata antilexin, substitutional. This definition defines the word whose meaning is sought by another simple and particular word. In some degree, it states by one word the meaning set down in another, as to grow quiet is to be silent. Likewise, when we say a boundary is an end, or define destroyed as pillaged. 6. Kata diaphoran, differential. When the difference between a king and a tyrant is in question, the assertion of difference defines each of them. A king is moderate and temperate, a tyrant wicked and cruel. 7. Kata metaphoran, by metaphor, i.e. one thing described in terms of another. As Cicero says in the Topics, the shore is where the wave plays itself out. This can be treated in several ways. To move, as in, the head is the citadel of the body. For blame, riches, a deep purse for a brief life. For praise, youth is the flower of life. 8. Kata aferesin to enantio, by negation of the opposite of what is defined. The good is what is not evil. The just is what is not unjust. And the like. These are so naturally tied together that one gains a logical understanding for the one by grasping the other. We should, however, use this type of definition when the opposite is known, for no one proves the known from the unknown. Belonging to this type are these definitions. Substance is what is neither quality, quantity, or other accidental. God can be defined by this type of definition, for although we cannot grasp in any way what God is, the subtraction of all existing things, what the Greeks call onta, supplies a knowledge of God to us by cutting off and removing things known, as if we were to say, God is what is neither body, nor any element, nor soul, nor mind, nor sense, nor intellect, nor anything that can be grasped out of these. By subtracting these and the like as well, we can define what God is. 9. Katatyposin, by some image. Aeneas is the son of Venus and Anchises. This is always used for individual items that the Greeks call atoma. It also appears in the following kind of statement, in which one is ashamed or afraid to name something, as Cicero, quote, when those cutthroats obviously are describing me. End quote. 10. Ostipos, in Latin, meaning like or for example. If one were to ask what an animal is, and the answer would be man, it is clearly not stated that man is the only animal, since there are countless others. But when man is stated, it defines animal by the example of man, although many other creatures are set down under this term. The example quoted stated the matter under discussion, as a definition by its nature must. 11. Kata elipes olokleron homogenous, by what is lacking of fullness of the same genus. If one asks what a quarter is, he receives the reply, that which lacks 3/4 of being a whole. 12. Kata epainon, by praise. Cicero in the speech for Cluentius says, the law is the mind and soul and counsel and decision of the state. And elsewhere, peace is quiet liberty. It appears also in statements of blame that the Greeks call psogon. Slavery is the worst of all evils, to be driven off not only by war but also by death. 13. Kata analogian, proportional. This type occurs when a lesser thing is defined with a term for the greater thing. Man is a lesser world. Cicero uses this type of definition in, they say an edict is a law that is in force for a year. 14. Kata ton prosti, relational. A father is one who has a son, as a master is one who has a slave. Cicero says in the Rhetorica, a genus is that which includes several species. Also, a species is what is a subcategory of genus. 15. Kata etiologian, causational. Day is the sun above the earth, night the sun beneath the earth. We should know that the above-mentioned types of definitions are properly tied to commonplaces, since they are placed within certain arguments and in some works are discussed among the commonplaces. Now, let us come to commonplaces that are the bases of discussions, the sources of statements of opinions, and the starting points of modes of expressions. On these matters, some few words must be said so that we may recognize dialectical and rhetorical commonplaces. And first, we must speak about the dialectical commonplaces. The division of commonplaces, or of passages from which arguments are drawn, some are inherent in the subject under discussion, some are said to be connected and are known to derive to some degree from other subjects, others are regarded as extrinsic. Arguments that were in the subject under discussion, from the whole, from its parts, from meaning. Arguments from the whole. When a definition is attached to the matter in question, as Cicero says, quote, glory is the praise of deeds well done, and a reputation for great merits in the Republic. End quote. An argument from parts, when the defendant either denies the deed or says it was justly done. An argument from meaning, when some proof is drawn out from the meaning of a term, as Cicero says, quote, I was looking for a consul, I say, whom I could not find in this eunuch. End quote. Arguments closely connected are those known to be drawn to some degree from other subjects. Conjugate, from genus, from species, likeness, difference, contraries, adjuncts, antecedents, consequence, contradictions, cause, effect, comparison of greater to lesser, of lesser to greater, of equal to equal. Argument from conjugates. When there is a change from noun to verb, as Cicero says of varies, that, quote, he swept the province, or noun from verb as robber from rob, a noun from noun, as Terence says, the undertaking of madmen, not lovers. If the end of one term differs by being fashioned in another type of word formation. Argument from genus, when a statement is drawn from the same genus, as Virgil says, a woman is always shifty and changeable. Argument from species, when a particular statement gives credence to the general point. Not thus did the Phrygian shepherd enter Lacedaemon. Argument from likeness. When matters like others are brought out, as Virgil says, supply me with weapons, none shall fly from my right hand in vain against the Rutuli that were fixed in Greeks' bodies on the plains of Troy. Argument from differences. When some things are separated by differences, as Virgil says, you do not see the horses of Diomedes and the chariot of Achilles. Argument from contraries. When contrary matters are contrasted to one another. As Virgil says, is it right that ships made by mortal hands have immortality, and Aeneas in his certainty wander through uncertain perils? Argument from consequence. When something inevitably follows the stated circumstance. As Virgil says, not this violence in our hearts, not such great pride in the conquered. Argument from antecedents. When something is proved from known events, as Cicero says in For Milo, since he did not hesitate to disclose what he thought, can you doubt what he did? Arguments from contradictions. When the objection raised is removed by some contradiction, as Cicero says, therefore he who had wanted to kill you at home is not only freed from such danger, but marked out with the highest honor. Argument from like notions. When it is shown by a comparison what will take place from each event. If they drive us out, they think nothing will be able to prevent them from putting all the West completely beneath their yoke. Argument from causes. When each circumstance is treated according to common practice. As Terence says, I have long feared you, Davus, that you would do what the common run of slaves often does, that you might fool me with tricks. Argument from effects. When something is approved as a result of past actions. As Virgil says, fear proves ignoble souls. Argument from comparison. When by comparison of persons or causes the reasons for a decision is fashioned by implications. As Virgil says, you can draw Aeneas out from under the hands of the Greeks. Is it unlawful that we give some aid in turn to the Rutuli? Arguments drawn from external circumstances are called by the Greeks ateknos, i.e., lacking skill. Like evidence. Evidence arises from persons, the authority of nature, the authority of circumstances, which has 8 modes: talents, resources, age, luck, skill, experience, necessity, and the meeting of chance circumstance. The words and actions of our ancestors, torture. Evidence is everything that is drawn from some external source to gain credence. A person whose evidence carries the weight to gain credence is not just anyone, but must be praiseworthy because of the decency of his moral character. Natural authority comprises the greatest excellence. There are many kinds of evidence that carry authority: talent, riches, age, luck, skill, experience, necessity, the meeting of fortuitous circumstances. Credence is sought from the words and actions of our ancestors by recalling the words and deeds of the ancients. Credence is provided by torture, after which we believe that no one would lie. The matters treated under circumstances do not need definitions because they are obvious from their names. Remember that commonplaces indeed offer arguments commonly to orators, dialecticians, poets, and lawyers. When they prove something in particular, they are of use to rhetoricians, poets, lawyers, but when they discuss matters in general, they serve philosophers. Really a remarkable kind of work to be able to bring together whatever the versatility and variety the human intellect displays in its search for meaning. This kind of work envelops the free and voluntary intellect, for wherever the intellect turns, wherever thought it engages in, it must fall upon some of these commonplaces that have been discussed. We think that it'll be useful to summarize by whose labor these matters can be spoken of in Latin, so that these authors will not fail to achieve their fame, and so that the task will be recognized by us, and grant the authors their due. Victorinus, the orator, translated the Isagoge. Boetius, the patrician, published a commentary on it in 5 books. Victorinus also translated the Categories and wrote a commentary on it in 8 books. Victorinus also translated the Perihermenias into Latin. The patrician Boetius wrote a point-by-point commentary on it in 6 books. Apuleius of Madara briefly explained the categorical syllogisms, and Victorinus wrote about the hypothetical syllogism. Cicero translated Aristotle's Topics into Latin. Victorinus, who loved and studied Latin authors, wrote a commentary on Cicero's translation in 4 books. As a matter of fact, the previously mentioned patrician, Boetius, also translated these same topics of Aristotle into Latin eloquence in 8 books. I thought it appropriate to collect these authoritative books not unsuitably into one manuscript, so that whatever pertains to dialectic may be included in one codex. We have the many commentaries on the different texts, since they are lengthy, written down in separate books, and we have left them to you with the Lord's aid in one collection. We have surveyed the liberal arts insofar as we have judged them useful to beginners, to enable them to reach the entrance of the disciplines through open doors, as it were. Although there are difficulties in the way of entering and learning these disciplines, the toil of the study of elements persists until one sees what sweetness they have. But when scholars have reached a stage of mature competence, each one regards it as delightful to have it endured the troubles of his endeavors. We now turn to the illustrious divisions of these arts in which Greek is correctly thought to surpass the Latin language. We will try not so much to explain these briefly as to sketch them out. For why should what is found clear and plain in the original authors be discussed as if it were, distinctively and fully? We must now consider, however, since we have arrived at this point, what we touched on in the rhetorical section, namely, the difference between an art and a discipline, so that difference in the terms in their confusion not confound the reader. Plato and Aristotle, worthy teachers of secular letters, considered the difference between an art and a discipline in the following way. An art involves working in an accustomed state with things that have the possibility of being other than they are. A discipline, however, is concerned with those things that cannot turn out differently or other than they are. We assume that this means matters concerning worldly learning, since only divine letters cannot deceive, for they hold the unmovable personal authority of truth. We have heard that Felix Capella wrote a kind of anthology on the disciplines to enable the uneducated brothers to become acquainted with such literature. Nevertheless, up to now, we have been able to acquire only a small amount. But it is better for you that those selections not disappear at some time, and that these remaining, although not many, be soon available to those who are interested.